Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either April 5th or 6th, 2022. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Let's jump right into the content of this video, first by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Count Crowley, Amateur Midnight Monster Hunter, issue number 1. And the question remains, was this a worthy and worthwhile book to be my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is no. No, not really. Well, here's the deal. I really loved the first 4 issues of Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter that came out, gosh, was it like 2.5 years ago? A long time ago. It was fantastic. I loved it so much. So maybe my expectations were a little bit too high for this installment of it. This book did a decent amount of kind of trying to remind us who the main character is and what her deal is and what she's been dealing with. It picks up shortly after the events, if not immediately after the events of the first 4 issues series. But it didn't quite have the same magic by way of excitement of learning about the character and her learning about the world of monsters that exists all around her. This was just kind of more, average in that respect. Now, I haven't given up hopes for this series, this installment of it, this chapter, so to speak, of it. I'm absolutely going to pick up issues number 2, 3, and 4. I expect it to improve upon issue number 1 in issues 2, 3, and 4. Since I expected this, I didn't expect this, but my experience of this was that it was basically just kind of warming us back up to the world and to the character. So if you didn't pick this up, I understand. I wouldn't necessarily tell you to run out and pick it up now. However, I would still highly recommend the first installment of this book, the first 4 issues, called Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter. But this one, I think, is for the fan of that first series, which I am. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the books that are coming out this week that I want to talk about. Now, I'm going to tell you first, I almost wasn't going to be talking about books this week. There wasn't much that I was excited about, but as I started to do research on the books coming out this week, I was like, okay, well, there are 6 number 1 books that I can talk about this week. Maybe I'll make this a just number 1 books video. But then I decided that one of the number 1 books was a standout for me personally. And as I did the research on it, I started getting excited about it. So I ended up having a pick for you this week. The only book that I was pulling prior to doing research for this video is Batman, issue 122. Now, this book is the last of 3 issues that are going to be written by Joshua Williamson, 122, 123, and 124, before Chip Zdarsky takes over the title with 125. I wasn't expecting much out of this series in these issues, considering the fact that this writer is wrapping up their relatively short time on this title. But it's my understanding there might be a first appearance here in this issue 122 with this Shadow Wars storyline that they've got going on. So it might be an issue that you consider keeping on your radar. But let's go ahead and talk about the 5 honorable mentions that I have for you this week and my just one book pick of the week. Oh, side note, there's a lot of great covers this week, including, as I was just talking about Batman, this Batman cover right here, that's really good. I like it a lot. So, and there are a lot of other great covers this week. So make sure you pay attention to that as I'm going through these titles this week. My first honorable mention to mention this week is Batman Beyond Neo Year, issue number 1 of a 6-issue limited series from DC. Here's the description. New Gotham is alive and has killed Bruce Wayne. It's rejected Terry McGinnis as Batman and offered him the chance to escape. Terry turned it down. He is the city's protector, and he will uphold the legacy of Batman. Now, Neo Gotham will do everything in its power to destroy Terry, including creating brand new villains to fight him. Terry's first year without Bruce Wayne begins. Does he have a fighting chance? From the Rising Star creative team of Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing and Max Dunbar, a new future for Batman Beyond has begun. So, Batman Beyond is a cool character. I'm down with that. I used to be really into the animated Batman Beyond cartoon back in the day. So, Terry McGinnis and Batman Beyond is something that I thumbs up. In addition, this solicitation promises brand new villains. So, there may be some key potential there, something to consider, as far as speculation is concerned. So if you're a fan of Batman or Batman Beyond, or you just want to check out the potential first appearances of the new villains, this might be a book for you to check out this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. Once again, these are all new books this week. The book is West of Sundown, issue number 1 from Vault Comics. Here's the description. A beautiful vampire must flee monster slayers in New York City and reclaim the ancestral soil that restores her undead flesh. But the world has changed since she was reborn in the New Mexico desert. And now Constance der Abend and her loyal assistant Dooley must adapt to life in the rough frontier town of Sangre de Moro, where all sorts of monsters have settled. A Western tale of survival starring a cast of literary horrors from the diabolical minds of Tim Seeley, Aaron Campbell, and Jim Terry. So first off, those names are worth paying attention to right there. Tim Seeley, Aaron Campbell, Jim Terry. That's pretty cool. Check that out. If you like vampires, check this out. It seems like it's got a bit of a Western kind of vibe to it. That's cool. It's also got, once again, really great covers by Aaron Campbell and other people. I don't have their names. But it's pretty cool. Might be worth checking out. I've mentioned before when I talk about DC versus vampires that vampires are kind of played out for me. I'm not so excited by them or interested in them. But this could be interesting if you are interested in them. So in a week that is otherwise doesn't have a ton going for it, this is kind of a standout and might be worth checking out. The next book I want to mention to you is The Joneses, issue number 1 of 5 from AWA Studios. Here's the description. Spinning out of the pages of The Resistance, The Joneses focus on a suburban family with a big secret. In the global pandemic known as the Great Death, mother, father, sister, and brother were all transformed into something superhuman. While the world embraces fascism born of fear, the Joneses realize they face grave consequences if they are exposed as reborns. Do they keep a low profile and hide in plain sight, or use their powers for good and risk exposure? Okay, this is interesting. The world of the Resistance is interesting. The idea of a superhero family that living in a world where it's not cool for them to be superpowered, that's interesting. Or what are they going to do with their powers? What aren't they going to do with their powers? What are their powers? All these things are interesting to me. A superhero family, I find interesting because not only do you get family dynamics, but then you get superhero team dynamics as well. I think this could be a worthwhile book to check out this week. Once again, I'll probably end up saying this more than once, and so this is at least number 2 in my list of times that I'm saying this. But in a week that is otherwise a bit lackluster and doesn't have much going for it, this might be a book worth checking out. The next book I want to mention to you is Alice Ever After, issue number 1 of a 5-issue limited series from Boom Studios. Here's the description. Return to Wonderland in this twisted sequel by superstar artist and writer Dan Panosian, perfect for fans of Mirka Andolfo's Mercy and Luna. Alice first visited Wonderland as a child. Now an adult, it's her only escape from a cold, strange reality she finds herself living in. But in order to return to her fantasy world, she'll need something stronger than mushrooms that change her size, and is forced to resort to crime to feed her growing addiction. Will Alice choose to escape from her uncaring family and childhood trauma in Wonderland to find the courage to face her demons in the real world? Okay, when I first saw this title, I was like, it's an Alice in Wonderland adaptation. I'm not really particularly interested in that. But then once I started reading it, and it's talking about how she's resorting to crime to feed her growing addiction, which is, I guess, escaping to Wonderland. This is interesting. From a grown-up perspective, I'm interested. I'm using that word a lot, but I always do, because things that interest me are stuff that I want to share with all of you. So this is one that's really piqued my, there it is, interest. In addition, it's got great covers by Jenny Friesen and J. Scott Campbell. So they pulled out some heavy hitters to come and do the cover work on this book. And so, you gotta at least kind of pay attention, if for that reason, potentially alone. But it sounds like it could be a cool story. So if you're a big fan of Alice in Wonderland, I imagine you'll be all over this. But even if you're not a big fan of Alice in Wonderland, I like the idea of like a fairy tale character getting treatment where they are way more grounded and flawed, and seeing what that story becomes. So I think this might be worth checking out this week. The next book, let me see, 1, 2, 3. The next book I want to mention to you is Spider-Punk, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Anarchy in the Spider-Verse. Spider-Punk gets his own series. Hobie Brown is the anarchic Spider-Punk set to protect Earth 138 with his axe in hand and his chaotic brand of punk rock and heroes backing him. Norman Osborn is dead, but will the chaos he's created be too much for Spider-Punk and gang to handle? Feel the vibes as Cody Ziegler and Justin Mason bring you the jams when Banned in DC begins here. Okay, so once again, it's a light week. There isn't much going on here, but it is a week that has Spider-Punk. So Spider-Punk is a character that I don't know much about. Frankly don't know anything about it other than it's a punk rock version of Spider-Man. You know what? That's good enough for me. I'm totally interested in reading stories about the punk rock Spider-Man. And now here's that opportunity. The Spider-Verse has never been more viable and more interesting and more worthwhile from a storytelling perspective. And so you may as well just throw Spider-Punk into the mix and get some really cool Spider-Punk stories going. So if you like fun and if you like Spider-Man, I really think Spider-Punk might be worth checking out this week, in a week that is otherwise fairly lackluster. I think I did my 5 honorable mentions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did. All right, so that brings us to the final book that I'm going to mention today, which is my just one book pick of the week. And that book is X-Men Red, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Who can save the Red Planet? The mutants of Arakko spent millennia scarred by war. But on what was once called Mars, they're learning to live in peace. Storm knows the Red Planet needs something greater than a queen. But Abigail Brand has other plans, along with an unstable Vulcan by her side and Cable keeping his own secrets. Welcome to X-Men Red. It's a new world, and someone has to fight for it. Okay, so this is the book this week that like I said, once again, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I was just going to do just number one books and not have a pick. But the more I started thinking about this book, the more excited I got about it. I am an X-Men fan, a big X-Men fan, but I have not been a fan at all of the recent X-Men books. There's too many of them. The story is a bit convoluted for me. The conflict seems kind of non-existent. I just haven't really been excited about what I've been reading in the very few X-Men books that I have been reading. But when I think about this book, there are things that excite me about it. One, they're on Mars. They're on the terraformed Mars that they have created. I like, especially currently, the idea of the X-Men in a cosmic narrative, in something that takes them off the confines of planet Earth, puts them out into outer space, where they have to deal with more variety, potentially, of issues. So I'm excited about that, that they're in outer space, basically. And also, in addition, kind of a final straw of making this book interesting to me is that it seems like it's going to be Storm heavy. And Storm is awesome. Storm is incredibly awesome. She is a great character with a really awesome power set. And when artists get their hands on her, she can look amazing. Her persona, her design, and her power set when artists can really represent her in a way that brings forth some really fantastic art. And that is evidence, that is clearly evidenced, that's the word, right? In the covers for this book, which are super fantastic. They're really, really great. In fact, I went to my LCS and I was like, I want to add this to my poll. Which cover do I want? Which cover do I want? And I realized if I was going to pick them based off of how good the cover art, I was going to have to buy every single cover. So I was like, well, just give me the A cover. That'll be fine with me. But the art is really great. And once again, that is a testament to me, from me, to the power of Storm and how awesome she is. And once again, I'm a huge X-Men fan, so I'm excited at the prospect of an X-Men title that I'll really, really get excited about. I mean, I was reading Sword for a while, and that I lost interest in that. I finished Way of X because it was a limited series. That was interesting, but even kind of petered off for me at the end. I'm really hoping that this X-Men Red is awesome. And I think with characters on the cover like Storm, Magneto, and Sunspot, that it has great potential to be something special in the X-Men franchise. And for those reasons, that is why X-Men Red is my just one book pick for this week. Okay, I was trying to make this video as short as possible. I may have ended up just kind of rambling in a weird way or stumbling over my words in my effort to talk really fast. So hopefully there was some good information here for you this week. If you like these videos, as always, I encourage you to hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And that's it for this video this week. Thank you all so much for watching it. I'll see you in the next one.